On the first day back in the country, I parachuted into the project team as a representative of the funder, and the person in charge turned out to be my ex-fiancé Lu Huai. 3 years ago, at our wedding, I left without a word. After the meeting, he stopped me, gritting his teeth, and asked, "Why did you run away back then?" I answered calmly, "Your girlfriend said she was pregnant with your child." The Maybach smoothly stopped in front of Huanyu Construction's skyscraper. The car door opened. I stepped onto the land in Zhu Yongjia's Starry Series high heels, returning after 3 years away. The sunlight was a bit blinding. I narrowed my eyes slightly and looked at the familiar building before me. 3 years ago, I was just an ordinary designer here, eagerly preparing for a wedding with the chief designer Lu Huai. Now, I am the vice president of a top investment bank, Yuanxing Capital, and their largest backer, Mr. Shun, for the Maritime Diamond project. The meeting was on the top floor. They had been waiting for a long time. An assistant opened the thick glass door for me and bowed respectfully to me. I nodded, pulled my thoughts back, and the professional icy look returned to my face in the elevator mirror. The woman I saw was wearing a perfectly tailored Gucci haute couture suit, with meticulous makeup and sharp eyes. For 3 years, I am no longer Shen Xingruo who cried over love. The top floor conference room was oppressive. The long conference table was surrounded by senior members of the project team, their EXP expressions tense, as if awaiting judgment. I pushed the door open, and all eyes were fixed on me. My gaze scanned the room, finally settling on the man at the head of the table, Lu Huai. He wore an expensive custom-made suit, his hair neatly combed. He still carried that air of being a chosen one by heaven. But the moment he saw me, all his composure and calm shattered instantly. He looked petrified, his pupils dilating, his face paling in a second, his lips moving silently as he uttered my name, Shen Xingruo. I ignored him and strode straight toward the head of the table. The project's overall head, already perceptive, stood up gracefully to pull out a chair for me. "Everybody, I'm Shen Xingruo from Yuanxing Capital. From today, I will take over the financing side review for the Binhai Diamond project." My voice wasn't loud, but it clearly reached everyone's ears. "Let's begin now." The next 2 hours would be a one-sided slaughter. I did not look at Lu Huai again the entire time. My remarks were precise and sharp, shredding their proud project plan to 1,000 holes. The core cylindrical design of Tower A has serious structural redundancy, wasting at least 15% of the construction cost. The exterior facade material selection report uses prices 3 years old. The question is, are you betting that we as financiers won't do due diligence? And this smart ecological circulation system, the concept, is good, but the implementation path is entirely illusory, with a budget overrun risk of over 200%. With every sentence I spoke, the room's atmosphere sank another notch. In the end, the entire meeting room fell silent except for the rustle of the papers I turned. Those directors, who normally swaggered with confidence, were now all silenced, and their foreheads broke out in fine cold sweat. Lu Huai's face went from pale to awkwardly flushed. It was because he was the project design chief, and every question I raised seemed like a slap, fiercely striking at the pride of his professional vanity. Dismissed. I closed the files. "Director Lu, I need a reasonable explanation for your plan. Be in my office by 9 tomorrow morning." After finishing, I stood to leave. The sound of my high heels striking the floor felt like it was stepping on everyone's heart. As soon as I walked out of the conference room, my arm was gripped hard from behind, with so much force that it almost crushed my wrist bone. I turned to meet Lu Huai's pair of reddened eyes. His handsome face was twisted with extreme anger as he stared at me. "Shen Xingruo, you find the disappearing act very amusing, don't you?" He forced out the sentence from between his clenched teeth, his voice trembling with barely restrained emotion. 3 years. 3 whole years. "Do you know I coldly interrupted him. Not only did he not let go, but he grabbed even tighter. Curious glances from passing staff swirled around. I didn't want to perform a soap opera scene in public. I pulled out antiseptic wipes from my bag, took one out, and in front of him, slowly wiped the wrist he had touched inch by inch, meticulously, with every movement, dripping with extreme contempt and disgust. Lu Huai's body stiffened abruptly. His anger was instantly replaced by a sting of pain, as if something had pricked him. He suddenly released my hand. "You, His voice was hoarse to an absurd degree. Why did you run back then? This was the answer he most desired, and it was like a 3-year-old stone pressing on his heart. I tossed the used wipe into the nearby trash can, straightened the expensive suit he had grabbed, and finally looked him directly in the eye. Your girlfriend said she was pregnant with your child. Lu Huai's expression froze in an instant. Anger, questioning, and pain all clouded his face at that moment. Crystallizing into an almost absurd shock, I continued speaking in a tone as flat as if I were recounting something unrelated to myself. He knelt down and begged me, saying he couldn't live without you, and the child couldn't have no father. He asked me to give you and the child a complete home. Lu Huai's lips began to tremble, and he shook his head in disbelief, as if denying every word I said. No. Impossible, Rainway. She wouldn't. Watching his hollow-eyed, stunned appearance, the scar in my heart that had been there for 3 years finally healed. There was no expected pain, only a ridiculous sense of amusement. I curled my lips and delivered the final blow. By the way, I forgot to say, congratulations on becoming a father. After speaking, I didn't glance at him again. I turned toward the elevator behind me. Lu Huai stood like a statue, with the world crumbling around him. The elevator doors closed slowly, sealing off his stunned and tortured gaze. Downstairs, a black Bentley was parked. Jiu Yenji sat in the back seat, handing me a cup of warm coffee as I got in. He is the president of the Asia Pacific at Duanqing Capital, and 3 years ago, he pulled me out of the mire when I was at my lowest ebb. Did the first day go smoothly? I took the coffee, and warmth spread from my fingertips. Just an appetizer. Luo Huai didn't know how he had returned to the office. Qi Yue is pregnant. 3 years ago, she knelt down to beg Shen Xingruo. Impossible, absolutely impossible. Yue is so kind and gentle, how could she do such a thing? Shen Xingruo must be deceiving him. It's for revenge. And to make him suffer, she cooked up such a lie. Yes, that must be it. He grabbed the car keys and dashed out of the company as if driven mad, determined to find Qin Yue and ask her face to face in the Western Art District. Inside Qin Yue's studio, Luo Huai kicked open the door. She was wearing a white dress, quietly painting in front of the easel, sunlight spilling over her, like a fairy out of this world. Startled by the loud crash, she turned around and saw Luo Huai, eyes blazing red. Looking deranged, his face paled. Huai, what happened to you? Luo Huai strode forward a few steps, grabbed her shoulders with enough force to make her cry out in pain. 3 years ago, did you go to find Shen Xingruo? Did you tell her you were carrying my child? Qin Yue's pupil shrank violently. The crimson color tears welled from her face, but only for a second before she reacted. Her eyes suddenly reddened, large tears welling up and rolling down. Huai, what are you saying? She cried, tears streaming down her cheeks, looking pitiable. How could I have done such a thing? Is Shen Xingruo back? Right. Did she tell you something? She turned and grabbed Lu Huai's sleeve, crying heartbreakingly. I knew it. I knew she wouldn't let us off easily. Back then, she suddenly ran away from the engagement, making you the joke of the whole city. Now she's back. She must be unwilling and wants to get revenge on us. How could she be so vicious, leaving you and humiliating us? And fabricating such lies to slander me. Qin Yue's teary confession hit Lu Huai's sore point precisely. Yes, 3 years ago at the wedding, he stood alone on the stage, facing the sympathy and ridicule of the guests, like a huge joke. That kind of humiliation still haunts his midnight dreams. Shen Xingruo's sudden disappearance at that time, for no reason, was itself an extreme display of arrogance and cruelty. Maybe Yue was right. She was merely fabricating this vicious lie out of revenge. But why, when he saw Shen Xingruo's cold, scornful eyes, did a corner of his heart tell him what she said was true? Lu Huai fell into unprecedented confusion and wavering, and for the first time, a subtle crack appeared in his trust in Qin Yue. He pushed her away, his voice tired. Let me be alone for a while. Late at night, the top floor suite of Riverside No. 1. I stand before the huge floor-to-ceiling window. I overlook the city's dazzling lights. The red wine in my glass sways gently, the bright liquid looking like the blood that flowed from my heart 3 years ago. That moment still pricks my heart with 1,000 pains whenever I recall it. A week before the wedding, Qin Yue asked me to meet her at a quiet cafe. She wore a simple white dress, with a pale face, but her eyes held a reckless, Desperate madness. Without unnecessary words, she pulled a sonogram from her bag and pushed it in front of me. I'm pregnant with a Huai's child, 6 weeks. My mind went blank. The surrounding hum was loud in my ears. Looking at that blurred black and white image, I felt the world cracking inch by inch. Liu Huai and I started dating in college, worked hard together after graduation, and our 7-year relationship was nearly coming to fruition. He loves me, I love him, and I never doubted that. But Qin Yuwei, the childhood friend who grew up with him, always held a special place in his heart. He said she only saw him as a brother. He said he only saw her as a younger sister. I believed it, until that sonogram slapped me in the face, waking me from all my naive certainties. I really didn't mean for it to happen. If I felt guilty. Qin Yuwei suddenly slid from her seat and knelt before me. The people in the cafe turned to look. Her tears were like beads shed from a broken thread. Her voice was clear as it came. That day Huai drank too much. He mistook me for you. I swear I didn't mean for this, but the child is innocent. Starlight, I beg you to help us out. Huai is so outstanding. He can't bear the stain of premarital pregnancy, and the child can't grow up without a father from birth. You love him so much. You'll think of him, right? Her crying words, her pleas, the surrounding pointing fingers, those sympathetic and scornful gazes stabbed at me like countless needles. I looked at her kneeling on the ground, and then at the sonogram again, and a wave of dizziness overwhelmed me. All my pride, all my love, at this moment became a joke. I didn't cry, didn't make a scene. I simply stood up calmly, looking down at her from a height. As you wished. On the wedding day I would disappear without a trace, taking nothing with me, only leaving behind my shattered dignity. As the tide of memories receded, I drained the wine in the glass. The humiliation and despair from that year had now hardened into armor. The next morning at 9, the project briefing, Liu Huai, with heavy dark circles under his eyes and a haggard complexion, stood in front of the briefing screen, forcing himself to explain the revised plan with energy. I listened quietly until he finished. Done. I spoke, my voice cold. He nodded. I picked up a laser pointer and pointed at the screen. Your so-called optimization plan is just patchwork on the existing foundation. First fatal problem, the core cylinder of Tower A. You only reduced the amount of steel bars, without doing the structural mechanics calculation. Do you know what that means? Under extreme wind pressure, the building's sway will exceed the safety threshold, and residents on high floors will feel like they are sailing. Second, exterior facade materials. You switched to another supplier. The price dropped, but the fire rating fell from Class A to B1. Are you trying to turn this multi-billion building into a dazzling powder keg? Third, the intelligent ecosystem. You cut 40% of the functional modules, aptly called budget simplification. Director Liu, a hacked version of the system, apart from bragging in brochures. Is there any practical significance? You are committing commercial fraud. Every time I stated a point, Liu Huai's face grew paler, and the room fell silent. All the project team members, including those senior directors, watched me with an almost reverent awe. They did not expect that this young, stunningly beautiful woman who didn't look like a real powerhouse could be so capable. Liu Hui's professional dignity was torn down by me in front of everyone, piece by piece. Then crushed underfoot, he stood there, his face turning from white to red to pale again, lips moving, but not a single word could come out. She coldly withdrew her gaze and announced the final verdict. Rejected. I'm giving you only 3 more days. If I still don't see a satisfactory proposal after 3 days, Yuanxin Capital will reassess the investment value of the Binhai Manufacturing Section project. These words were like a bombshell. Everyone knew what it meant. The project might be withdrawn from funding, and they might all lose their jobs. After the meeting, as I walked down the corridor, I could still hear my team members whispering behind me, my God, this CEO Shen is so formidable. Director Liu is basically an intern compared to her. Yeah, every word she said hit the nail on the head. I was sweating bullets. Looks like we've met our match this time. This is just the beginning. Qin Yuwei felt an unprecedented crisis. Since Liu Huai left the company, he hadn't contacted her all day, and every call she made was hung up. She knew that bitch Shen Xingruo must have said something that shook Liu Huai. She couldn't sit idly by. The next day at noon, Qin Yue carried a delicate insulated lunchbox to the foot of the Huanhu construction office building. She was dressed unusually pure and charming, a white lace dress, wearing a faint makeup that seemed barely there, looking like a delicate little white flower that couldn't withstand wind and rain. She wanted to go find Lu Huai first, to soothe his mood with her gentleness and food. Unexpectedly, just as she entered the lobby, I happened to walk out of the elevator. I was explaining and assigning tasks to my assistant. Qin Yue looked like a frightened young deer, quickening her pace, then she twisted her ankle, and the insulated lunchbox slipped from her grasp, flying toward me. I instinctively sidestepped. Most of the chicken soup in the lunchbox spilled onto the floor, but a few drops of scalding broth still splashed onto my pale beige suit. She spilled the soup on my jacket, leaving a few unsightly oil stains. Qin Yue let out a cry, and tears instantly welled up. Sorry, Miss Shen, I didn't mean to." She crouched down, flusteredly trying to wipe the stain on my suit with tissues, crying as she wiped. I just wanted to bring a little soup for a high. I really had no ill intent. Please don't be mad." Her voice wasn't loud, but in the quiet lobby, it carried clearly enough for everyone to hear. The surrounding staff cast strange glances and pointed at us. "Isn't that Director Lu's childhood friend? I heard she's an artist, and she looks really beautiful." She spilled the soup on the new president. "Shen, look at President Shen's expression. This is going to be good." A former lover, a confidant in love. TSK. I watched the woman performing tirelessly at my feet with an impassive expression, and my heart was utterly calm. 3 years ago, it was this pitifully cute appearance that deceived everyone and ruined my romance. But the same tricks no longer work on me. I did not get angry, nor did I bend down. I simply spoke calmly to my assistant beside me. "Send this globally limited Gucci haute couture item for dry cleaning, depreciation, and the loss of work fee due to my inability to attend the important afternoon meeting because of the stains, all to Miss Qin." The assistant nodded immediately. "All right, President Shen." Qin Yue's cries abruptly stopped. She stood stiffly in place, looking at me with disbelief. She had expected me to lose control in public like any ordinary person, a woman, or at least show disdain and anger so she could convincingly play the innocent victim being bullied, but I didn't. I turned her performance into a plainly priced joke with the coldest, harshest rule. Humiliating her with money and rules was far more embarrassing for her than venting emotions at that moment. A hurried voice came through. "Xingruo." Lu Huai rushed from the elevator hall, evidently having heard the news. As soon as he arrived, he saw Qin Yue kneeling on the ground, tears streaking her face, and me in a disheveled suit, his eyebrows unconsciously furrowed, and his first instinct was to step forward and lift Qin Yue up, shielding her behind him. "Xingruo, she didn't do it on purpose. Why are you being so aggressive?" His tone carried clear disapproval and reproach. Upon seeing this scene, I smiled. "See, this is Lu Huai, a man who is forever indecisive in matters of the heart, forever unable to distinguish responsibility from pity. No matter what the truth is, he always instinctively protects the person who looks softer and more in need of him." "Director Lu," I spoke, my voice as cold as ice. "First, this is working hours. Please have unrelated personnel leave the company immediately. If your childhood sweetheart wants to send a love lunch, do so after work in a place that does not disrupt company order. Second, as the project lead, if your proposal has been rejected, do you still have time for trivial romantic escapades? It seems your workload is too light and your pressure isn't high. Enough." I swept my gaze over him, then over Qin Yue, who was dripping with sorrow behind him, and then over the employees around who had come to gawk. I raised my voice and announced clearly, word for word, "From this moment on, I represent Far East Capital to launch a full financial and process audit of the Ocean Diamond project. The audit team will move in within 1 hour, and the first department to be audited will be the design department headed by Director Lu." This speech exploded in the hall like a thunderclap, and the color drained from Lu Huai's face instantly. He knew I was serious. This wasn't a personal vendetta. It was the most severe and thorough settlement by the financiers against the project leaders. Once a problem is found, not only will they lose their jobs, they could even face legal liability. Qin Yue's tears stopped on her face. finally realizing that the pride she took in her vulnerability and scheming was worthless, even laughable, in the face of my absolute power and strength. I ignored them and turned to my assistant, saying, "Prepare a spare suit for me. This afternoon's meeting will proceed as scheduled." Yes, President Shin, the storm has officially begun. My audit pace is swift, and after an hour, Yuanqing Capital's top auditing and legal teams officially moved into Huanyu Construction. They are like a pack of cold-blooded hunting dogs, equipped with professional instruments and sharp eyes, pouncing on mountains of project documents and financial statements. I set up a temporary. My office is in the meeting room next to the design department, where the large glass wall allows a clear view of every move the design department makes. Lu Huai tried to block him. He rushed into my office, visibly agitated. "Shen Xingruo, you're acting out of personal vendetta. You can't do this." I kept my head down and slammed a file onto his desk. "Take a good look. This is an authorization from the headquarters of Yuanqing Capital. I have the right to conduct unlimited scrutiny of any aspect of the project. If you obstruct me, you're interfering with the principal's legitimate rights and I can terminate your position immediately." Lu Huai stared at the document stamped with a bold red seal. Unable to utter a single word. Like a trapped beast, he watched my team as if a precise surgical blade infiltrate the department he had worked so hard to build. With efficiency that was astonishing, in just one day, they had narrowed down from thousands of supplier contracts to Yue Yichuang. This company was responsible for supplying all artistic decorations for the project and some high-end custom building materials, with the legal representative being Qin Hao, the brother of Qin Yue. The assistant placed the report in front of me. "President Shen, we've found out clearly, Yue Yichuang's contract quotations are at least 30% higher than the market price. Worse still, some of the imported materials they provided were found to be of inferior quality, completely failing to meet the contract stipulated quality and origin requirements. Most critically, several payments were personally signed and approved by Director Liu, bypassing the normal procurement process." I looked at the data and signatures on the report, and my gaze grew cold. "Lu Huai, you're not just clueless in love, you're hopelessly foolish in your professional life as well. Do you think Qin Yue's line, 'My brother's company is just getting started, help a bit,' was merely a small favor? That's clearly pushing you toward a bottomless abyss." I immediately convened an emergency meeting, with all project executives including Lu Huai present. I projected the investigation report on the big screen, and every data point, every piece of evidence was clear beyond dispute. According to the investigation, the supplier Yue Yichuang has engaged in severe commercial fraud and benefit transfer activities. I announced in a low voice, "Huanyu Construction terminates all cooperation with Yue Yichuang immediately, and the legal department will promptly initiate legal pursuit to recover all ill-gotten gains." My voice echoed in the silent conference room. Lu Huai sat there, dumbfounded, his face as pale as paper. He stared at the evidence on the screen, at the name he had signed with his own hand, and his whole body trembled. He could never have imagined that beneath Qin Yue's gentle and kind face lurked such dirty dealings. At that moment, my phone rang. It was Qin Hao. I pressed the speakerphone, and his furious roar came through the line. "Shen Xingruo, what the hell are you? Dare to cut off my financial path? Let me tell you, don't be shameless, offend our Qin family, and you'll be the one who can't make it in City A." The entire meeting room heard this crude threat and all looked at me. I picked up my phone, my tone calm and unruffled. "Mr. Qin, hello, this call has been fully recorded. Your remarks constitute defamation and threats. My legal team will gather the evidence, and the indictment will soon be served to your company." The roar on the other end of the line stopped abruptly, as if someone had choked him. I hung up, and my gaze shifted to Lu Huai, whose face was ashen. "Director Liu, there are such major safety hazards and financial black holes in the project. As the head of the design department, how do you explain?" Lu Huai opened his mouth but could not utter a sound. "Explain? To say he signed the dereliction documents to please his childhood sweet, the art. To say he let a woman's tears blind him and threw the safety of a hundreds of millions project aside. Whichever it was, it would ruin his career completely. He was finished, unable to defend himself, doomed to ruin." The career-ending disaster finally woke Lu Huai. He was suspended, once a genius designer crowned by stars in everyone's eyes. now a plague nobody in the company dared to approach, as he packed his personal belongings and left the building where he had fought for 7 years. Tears, the company's investigation report, and countless images tangled in his mind, tearing at his nerves. He asked a friend in the health system to search all obstetrics records for both public and private hospitals in City A from 3 years ago. A day later, the friend replied, after searching the entire city, there is no record of any woman named Qin Yue ever having a pregnancy, childbirth, or abortion chart. The result felt like a bucket of cold water pouring over his head, and Lu Huai was chilled through from inside out without any pregnancy record. That ultrasound report was fake. If Shen Xingruo hadn't lied. This realization struck like a bolt from the blue, stunning him into a daze. He couldn't believe it, and he didn't want to believe it. He needed more direct, ironclad proof to crush all his fantasies. He thought of Qin Yue's best childhood friend Li Siki back then and arranged to meet her at a cafe. Li Siki looked nervous, avoiding eye contact. Lu Huai wasted no words and directly pushed a bank card. An AA set of documents was placed in front of her. There are 500,000 in the card, and this is the evidence of your boss's extramarital affair. Choose one. Li Siki's face instantly turned pale. Mr. Lu, what do you mean by this? I want all of your chat records with Qin Yue about me from 3 years ago, in their entirety. Li Siki's body trembled like chaff in the wind. She looked at Lu Huai's bloodshot, cold eyes and knew the other man was far from joking. This man had completely gone crazy. After hesitating for a full 5 minutes, she tremblingly took out a screenshot from her phone, sent it to Lu Huai, then grabbed that bank card and ran without looking back. Lu Huai lowered his head to open the image. It showed that not long after Shen Xingruo disappeared 3 years ago, Qin Yue posted in the small group with her close friends, "If I get a hospital ultrasound image that was faked online, I'll make that self-righteous woman go away. Lu Huai, finally he'll be mine alone. Let's celebrate." Tilda. Then came Li Siki and other friends' praise. Wei, you're amazing. Ha ha ha, effortless victory. That Shen Xingruo is just a fool. Would she fall for this? Lu Huai held the phone, his hand trembling badly. It was as if something in his brain exploded. The world faded of color before his eyes, leaving only black and white. Blood began to cool from his fingertips inch by inch, until his heart froze. So everything was real. So he was a complete fool. He drove away the person he loved most with a lie and ruined his own life for a scheming liar. All the anger, unwillingness, and resentment accumulated over the past 3 years turned into a huge joke. Lu Huai let out a beastly roar, slammed the coffee table to the ground, and rushed out of the cafe, driving like an enraged bull. He headed straight toward Qin Yue's studio. He smashed his phone hard onto the canvas in front of her. The sharp edges cut into the sunlit sunflowers that were about to be completed. Qin Yue saw the chat screenshots, and the blush on her face faded completely. No, this is not me, it's photoshopped. It's Shen Xingruo who forged it. She's trying to frame me, she babbled incoherently, frantically defending herself, and tears welled up again. But this time, in Lu Huai's eyes, her tears only seemed incredibly fake and disgusting. Lu Huai's eyes reddened as he stepped closer, his gaze filled with unprecedented hatred and coldness. He suddenly grabbed Qin Yue by the throat and pinned her hard against the wall. "You ruined me, ruined my life." His voice seemed to come from the depths of hell, carrying endless despair and malice. Qin Yue struggled, gasping for air, her face filled with fear. The studio was in a mess, with arguing, crying, and things shattering, all of which were inadvertently recorded by the assistant I sent to monitor the project termination on my behalf. When the assistant sent me the recording file, I was sitting in the office, sipping the hand-brewed Blue Mountain coffee delivered by Jiu Yenji's people. I opened the recording, and Lu Huai's angry outburst and Qin Yue's frightened cries came through clearly. I listened quietly, limply, expressionless. I then selected the file and pressed delete. Everything was as expected. These people's shouts had long ceased to have anything to do with me. The scandal of kickbacks and interest transfer was eventually exposed. Far-seeing capital, with a zero-tolerance stance, pressured the board of Cosmos Construction. Soon, the formal documents from the head office were issued. Upon investigation, Lu Huai, the director of the design department, showed serious dereliction of duty in the Bin Hai Zhizuan project. neglecting his duties and causing the company substantial economic losses and reputational damage, by board resolution, he shall be dismissed and placed on the industry blacklist, never to be employed again. With one document, Lu Huai's career was completely terminated. Immediately afterward, my appointment letter was issued as well, appointing Ms. Shen Xingruo as the overall head of the Bin Hai Zhizuan project, fully responsible for all subsequent work, at the same time, granting her full authority over the East China regional business expansion of Yuanqing Capital. I not only took over the project but also became the actual helmsman of the business in this region. I quickly overhauled the project team, promoting a batch of capable and motivated young people, including a trusted aide brought from Yuanqing Capital. The new team brought a fresh atmosphere, and the project, which had been thrown into a chaotic mess by Lu Huai and the Qin family, was revived under my leadership, redrafting plans, optimizing the structure, cutting unreasonable costs, introducing advanced technologies. In just 1 month, all project metrics soared, even exceeding the initial expectations. My prestige in the company reached its peak. Everyone's skepticism about me, the parachuted female president, completely transformed into belief and reverence. I became the genuine queen of Huanyu construction. The celebratory banquet for the project returning to the right track was held at the most prestigious hotel by the Huangpu River. I wore a red evening gown and stood at the center of the crowd, receiving everyone's congratulations and praise. With the clinking of glasses and the fragrance of luxurious perfumes, I navigated the crowd with ease, confident and composed, radiating brilliance. The banquet was nearing midnight when Jiyu Yenji personally came to meet me. As we walked downstairs of the hotel, I unexpectedly saw someone, Lu Huai. He stood in the shadows at the door. In just a month, he seemed to have aged 10 years. Once a dashing prodigy, now his features were gaunt, his beard unkempt, and the once sharp suit he wore was creased and wrinkled. When he saw me, he rushed over without hesitation and obstructed my path. Xingruo, his voice was hoarse, with a heavy nasal tone and a plea. I was wrong. I really know I was wrong. His eyes reddened, and tears welled up at the corners. It was my fault for being blind, for being stupid, fooled by the poison woman Qin Yue. I'm sorry, Xingruo, would you give me one more chance? He tried to take my hand but was blocked by the bodyguards beside me. Still unwilling to give up, he asked, can we start over? I want nothing else but you. I swear in this life I will treat you well and compensate you. The way he humbly begged looked a lot like a hunted stray dog abandoned by its master. I looked at him, with no ripple of emotion in my heart. Not even a trace of disgust, like I was watching a completely unrelated stranger. I did not answer, nor did I give him a proper glance. I walked straight past him toward Jiyu Yenji's car. Jiyu Yenji had already opened the car door for me. Behind us, Lu Huai's voice was hoarse as he cried out my name. Xingruo, Shen Xingruo. I got into the car and did not look back. Jiyu Yenji sat beside me, glancing at the soul-stricken man outside the window, and in a voice that only the two of us could hear, softly said, "Trash deserves to stay in the trash can." The driver started the car, and I watched Lu Huai's figure shrink in the rearview mirror. He ran a few steps after the car, then finally collapsed to his knees, hugging the portrait head and wailing like a child. The cry was cut off by the car window and soon drowned in the city's noise. I lowered my gaze and looked at the dazzling night outside the window. The knot in my heart had been completely untied at this moment. For the first time, I felt true calm and relief. The past is dead. I originally thought that with Lu Huai's downfall and the Qin family's loss of wealth, this matter would come to an end, but I evidently underestimated the shamelessness and madness of the Qin family. Having cut off their lifeline, they acted like cornered mad dogs and launched a full-scale retaliation against me. Knowing they knew they couldn't match me in business, so they chose the most despicable and vicious method, attacking my reputation, overnight. The internet was flooded with scandalous materials about me. The rise of 818 Yuanqing Capital's beautiful deputy general, based on ability or body, shocking insider, the queen of the financial circle and her married superior's improper relationship, each insinuating expose, paired with photos of me and Jiyu Yenji interacting normally at work, was misinterpreted with ulterior motives. He held the car door for me and it was written as late night return to the lover's nest. We clinked glasses ceremoniously at a banquet and it was said to be toasting to love with lingering affection. Even my promotion documents were hinted to be the CEO's lavish bid for a pretty face. The Chin family pushed behind the scenes with tireless efforts, bribing a large number of trolls and marketing accounts. The entries #Shinshingru #GUYenji #hidden rules in the financial circle were forcibly pushed to the hot search, with front-page comments full of obscene and vulgar words. How could a 28-year-old woman reach this position? So there is someone. GUYenji isn't married yet. This is clearly about seducing a married man. She looks sly and seductive, obviously. Not a good person. The most disgusting woman who destroys other families. Even pig slaughter would be too good for her. For a time, I became the target of online attacks as a third party and vixen. The company's internal forum exploded as rumors spread. Employees who once respected me looked at me with strange, scornful, and insinuating gazes, and my authority faced an unprecedented challenge. What was even more nauseating was that Chin Yue took on the victim's posture to give an exclusive interview to entertainment media. In the video, she cried with a blossom-drenched look, claiming that she and Lu Huai were childhood sweethearts with deep feelings, and that I used power and improper means to destroy their relationship and force Lu Huai away. She did not mention her own scandals at all. Instead, she posed as a weak woman bullied by capital and power. This ignited public opinion. Countless netizens who had not verified the facts began to sympathize with her and curse me. Even Lu Huai could not bear to watch anymore. He somehow got my new number and called. Xingruo, I've seen what happened online. It's all the Chin family scheming. Don't worry, I can step in to clarify and tell everyone the truth. His voice was full of urgency and remorse. I listened to the voice on the other end of the line and only found it ridiculous. Clarify, I sneered. Lu Huai, what qualifications or credibility do you have left to clarify for me now? A failure who has been blacklisted by the industry and whose reputation is in ruins. Who would believe your words? It will only make things darker the more you describe them, binding you and me even deeper. By then, we will become the two lovers at odds for profit in others' eyes. He was choked speechless by my words, and the phone rang again. This time, it was GUYenji. The online world was quite lively. I felt like the male lead. It made me smile, and the irritation in my heart faded a lot. Sorry, I dragged you down with me. That's not your fault. His voice lowered. Are you ready? Ready for what? It's time for us to strike back. GUYenji's voice was calm and powerful. They think this is a public opinion war, but what I will fight with you is an annihilation battle. I looked at the poisonous comments on the computer screen that were boiling over, and the sour feeling in my chest was replaced by cold, high-spirited fighting spirit. The Chin family, your end has come. The public opinion offensive from the Chin family peaked on the third day, as they bought splash ads on several mainstream apps, all featuring Chin Yue's tear-streaked face and the blood-red headline accusing capital oppression. The entry "Jing Hao cares about Chin Yue" was pushed to the top of the hot searches, just when they thought victory was within reach and that public opinion would completely drown me. Our counterattack began. Official accounts of Yuanxing Capital and Huanyu Construction simultaneously issued statements, announcing an online press conference at 8 o'clock that evening to clarify recent online rumors. Everyone thought this would be just a pale public relations crisis response. At 8 o'clock in the evening, millions of netizens flooded into the livestream room, waiting to see how we would wash our image. The press conference venue was set up to be simple and solemn, with GUYenji personally in attendance, sitting in the main seat. He wore a dark suit, exuding a powerful aura. His eyes were steady and sharp when facing the cameras. Hello to all media friends and netizens, I am GUYenji. In just a few words, he refuted all rumors about me and him and declared that he would hold accountable by law the media and individuals who spread rumors. This was only the appetizer. Subsequently, our legal team took the stage. Led by the renowned iron-mouth lawyer Zhong, he didn't waste words and directly played a recording in public, the shouting, "You ruined me, you ruined my life. No, this isn't me, it's PS, it's Shinshingruo framing me." The full recording of Lu Huai confronting Chin Yue in her studio resonated across the entire internet. Qin Yue's own voice admitted to faking pregnancy and using Photoshop to pressure him, and Lu Huai's despairing roar was delivered to tens of millions without a single word off before they could react. Lawyer Zhong released a second piece of evidence. Qin's enterprise Yue Yichuang had for years inflated bids with fake contracts, siphoning massive funds from the Huanyu construction project. Every ledger and every contract was displayed clearly on the big screen. Immediately following was the third piece as well, the most deadly evidence. An audit report issued by a top-A domestic accounting firm has detailed, for the past 5 years, how the Qin Group evaded taxes and committed commercial fraud through related party transactions, dual contracts, and other means. All evidence carries dual endorsements from a top law firm and a top accounting firm, with unquestionable authenticity. The live stream exploded, the chat flooded like a flood. Holy crap, what on earth is this earth-shattering scoop? Faking pregnancy to drive away the rightful wife? Is this woman a devil, not just green tea, but a commercial fraudster and tax evader? This family should die. 2 days ago I felt sorry for Qin Yue. I'm an idiot. So President Shen is the real victim, being framed, getting smeared, and bearing it alone for 3 years. This isn't a counterattack, it's a downgrade in disguise. It's like pressing the other side to the ground and beating them to death. The hot search exploded instantly. 3 entries: Jinghao Qin Yue recording, Qin Group evades taxes, Shen Xingru fights back, caused the server to crash. Public opinion reversed completely with a huge wave. The Qin family's stock plummeted the moment the market opened the next day, with all partner banks rushing to demand repayment and partners cancelling contracts one after another. A seemingly glamorous family business had teetered on collapse within just a few hours, and my persona changed overnight from an evil mistress to a strong, independent woman who tears apart the green tea and fights corruption, becoming Nyo Hulu X. My name and story spread across the internet. Countless female netizens praised me as an idol and a model. This is what a true female lead looks like. No cries, no fuss, just power and the law to make you vanish into thin air. Big sister goes crazy in love, liked and subscribed. After this incident, I rose to fame in the national business circle. I was no longer just Jiyu Yenche's subordinate, but a Shen Xingruo who truly owned her own name and aura. The desperate will leap over the wall. The crazy dog of the Qin family chose to kidnap me on my way home from work, attempting to threaten our side into withdrawing the accusations. I quickly noticed the few sneaky black cars behind me and immediately called Jiyu Yenji. On the other end of the line, his voice remained calm. Don't be afraid. Finish work as usual. I was in good hands. His composure gave me immense reassurance, and I followed his plan, driving the car into the company building's underground garage as usual. Just as the car came to a stop, several black cars suddenly surged forward, forming a siege to lock my car in. The doors opened. 7 or 8 burly men with fierce looks, wielding wooden clubs, sneered as they stepped closer. I sat in the car, gripping the steering wheel, my heart inevitably pounding faster. Just as the leading man raised his club and prepared to smash the car window, a piercing screech of brakes suddenly rang out. More than a dozen black Audi A8s appeared out of nowhere and immediately enclosed the shabby black car. They emerged from behind. The doors were slammed open simultaneously, and nearly 100 bodyguards clad in uniform black suits and sunglasses streamed out, moving with precision and an imposing air. In under 30 seconds, they subdued those few hoodlums on the ground, leaving them motionless. The once ferocious thugs were now terrified. Kneeling on the ground and trembling from the shadows of the garage, a tall figure slowly stepped out. Jiyu Yenji. He didn't glance at the little thugs. He strode straight towards the leader pinned to the ground. Who sent you? The leader's teeth chattered, and he dared not utter a word. Beside Jiyu Yenji, the bodyguards directly pressed a foot on his wrist and ground it forcefully. A pig-slaughtering scream reverberated through the garage. It was Qin Zhenxiong, Boss Qin. Jiyu Yenji's gaze turned colder. Looking down at the leader, he spoke in a low tone yet carrying an oppressive edge that went straight to the soul. Go back and tell him, if he touches her even once, I'll make the Qin family vanish from the earth. After saying that, he turned and walked towards my car. I opened the car door and got out, looking at the person on the ground who had been subdued. The sight didn't stir me at all. In the 3 years, I've weathered far more tempests than this minor incident. Jiu Yenji walked up to me, took off his suit jacket, and draped it over my shoulders. Did I frighten you? I shook my head, and he smiled, handing me a manila envelope. All their blackmail materials are in there. Opening the folder, a thick stack of documents came into my sight, evidence of Qin Zhenxiong's early years activities of running a casino and lending at high interest, ledgers of the Qin Group's money laundering, and collusion between officials and businessmen, and even clues to several long unsolved murder cases. Each piece was enough to ruin the Qin family. I looked at Jiu Yenji, my expression complex. I had always known his background was extraordinary, but I hadn't imagined his influence could be so far-reaching. The next day, based on a detailed anonymous tip, the police carried out a surprise seizure operation against the Qin Group. Core members such as Qin Zhenxiong and Qin Hao were lawfully detained for multiple serious crimes, including organizing and leading a triad-type organization, money laundering, intentional injury, and illegal operations. This family, once glorious in City A, vanished in a flash within 3 days. TV news reported the downfall of the Qin family. I saw Qin Yuwei surrounded by reporters, looking frenzied, disheveled, and shouting non-stop. It wasn't me, it was Shen Xingruo who harmed me. She is a devil. I heard that she could no longer endure the continuous shocks and her mind completely collapsed, and she was sent to a psychiatric hospital after seeing the news. Lu Huai sent me 2 last messages. The first one, I'm sorry, and the second one, wish you happiness. I calmly pressed the delete key and dragged his number into the blacklist. Since then, everyone connected to my past exited my life in a brutal way, and my world finally became quiet. The Qin family's downfall caused a sensation domestically, actually, but in international capital markets, it was only an insignificant ripple. Yet this ripple dragged out the true deep sea giant behind it, the multinational investment group named Obsidian Capital. This group conducts itself with a low profile and ruthlessly. It has been the Qin family's overseas backer for years and its main money laundering channel. The Qin family's money tree suddenly toppled, leaving Obsidian Capital with a huge gap in its operations in China and heavy losses. They blamed the accounts on me and Jiu Yenji, and because of a series of impressive maneuvers in the domestic market, I was unanimously approved by the board of Far East Capital to be promoted to global partner, officially entering the top core decision-making level at 28. Becoming a global partner is an unprecedented miracle in the hierarchy-based world of investment banking. I had just stepped onto the peak of my career when a higher dimensional war suddenly arrived. Far East Financial's important energy acquisition in Europe was suddenly savaged by Obsidian Capital. They leveraged enormous capital advantages and familiarity with European market rules to create obstacles at every turn, while in the secondary market they heavily shorted our stock and spread negative news. When the news arrived, Far East's stock price began to swing sharply, and fear gradually filled the company. Everyone knew that Obsidian Capital was a colossal behemoth far larger than us, and this was an entirely unequal war. In the emergency board meeting held at our New York headquarters, the atmosphere was heavy. All directors wore grim expressions, and some even proposed giving up on the European business and narrowing the front to seek self-protection. When it was my turn to speak, I stood up to oppose any retreat. My voice rang unusually clearly in the silent conference room, and everyone looked at me, including the veteran directors with white hair. I walked to the giant electronic screen and pulled up real-time data graphs of the global financial markets. Obsidian's strength lies in its size and global layout, but that is precisely its weakness, a battle line that's too long and too many enemies. I believed we should not sit back and defend passively, but should go on the offensive. I proposed an extremely bold lure the Wei to rescue Zhao plan, abandon direct opposition in the European market, concentrate all funds and resources, and strike Obsidian Capital's heart in Asia, also its most profitable emerging technology market. They fight us with 30% effort, we will hit their heart with 100% effort. Once the plan was laid out, the meeting erupted in an uproar. This is crazy, one aging director stood up excitedly. This is gambling the entire company's fate. That's right. Asia is their home turf. We have no chance. The objections poured in, and everyone thought I had gone mad at this moment. Jiu Yenji stood up. He walked over to me, and with a steady and powerful voice, scanned the room. I agree with Shen Xingluo's plan. The room fell quiet again. He looked at me, eyes filled with unconditional trust and support. He said, venture capital is inherently a high IQ game of strategy. Fear of risk guarantees we will achieve nothing. I choose to trust my partner. He paused, adding in a voice that was soft yet audible to everyone, if we lose, I'll stand by you to rise again. At that moment, my heart was deeply stirred. In the end, despite strong opposition from Jiyu Yenji, my plan was approved, and I was appointed by the board as the overall commander of this counteroffensive, fully responsible for mobilizing all resources across the company globally. Standing in an office on Times Square in New York, I look at the financial data wall before me, composed of more than a dozen gigantic screens, glittering with the ever-changing pulse of global markets. An unprecedented surge of excitement and passion rises within me. The past grudges and feuds seem so insignificant in the face of the vast sea of stars before me. This is the battlefield I truly want. I turn to the elite team waiting behind me and say, everyone, ready to witness history. The war has begun. On the surface, my command team is retreating steadily in the European market, gradually shrinking the defense line, even willing to cut some profitable operations to create the illusion of a tightened cash chain and a vulnerability that cannot withstand a blow. Obsidian Capital is indeed fooled. They think we are at the end of the road, becoming more arrogant and reckless, pouring in more funds, increasing leverage and hoping he tries to defeat us in one fell swoop. Meanwhile, I secretly reinvest all the withdrawn funds through dozens of shell accounts. Like a trickle, I quietly pour them into the Asian tech stock market. Meanwhile, Yu Yang Ji uses years of accumulated contacts to fly to Europe and secretly visit several long-established European financial consortia that have long been squeezed by Obsidian Capital, forging a secret alliance. A vast net to encircle the giant beast quietly begins to spread unseen, and the moment of decisive battle is approaching. On the day Obsidian Capital believes it has a sure victory and launches a total assault on our European market, I order a full-scale attack. The launch of the poison pill plan. Poison pill provisions already embedded in European company equity are triggered, causing Obsidian's hostile takeover costs to surge tenfold in an instant. At the same time, our European allies launch a comprehensive counterattack against Obsidian's affiliated industries in their respective fields. Banks curtail lending, orders are cancelled, and tech patent litigations are filed. Obsidian's backyard instantly lights up in flames, and the funding chain is threatened on multiple fronts. And we seize the opportunity to undermine their Asian AI technology division from the ground up. This heart-stopping capital crucible ends in our complete victory. We not only avert the crisis and protect the European market but also turn around to swallow the enemy's juiciest piece of meat. This the shock on Wall Street was palpable, and Prosper Capital was elevated to a new status in one fell swoop. My name, Shane Zingle, appeared on the cover of the world's top financial magazine, Fortune, for the first time, with the headline, The Dragon Slayer. When all the data settled and victory was confirmed, the tension I had endured for half a month finally subsided, and a wave of exhaustion washed over me. Wearily, I leaned back in my chair and closed my eyes. At that moment, the office erupted with thunderous cheers and applause. Amid the cheers, my team members embraced and shed tears. A pair of warm hands gently rested on my shoulders. I opened my eyes to see Jiyu Yang Ji standing behind me. He said nothing but simply gave me a quiet embrace from behind, a hug free of any lust, filled only with the comfort and support of comrades in arms. I rested in his embrace, listening to the hustle and bustle of New York outside the window, and a sense of tranquility filled my heart. He whispered in my ear, "You did it." Yes, I did it. Not only did I defeat the enemy, but I also overcame the past version of myself. The future I shaped with my own hands, the path I chose, is the most tangible reality right now. My journey lies among the stars and the sea. End of story.